How's it going, guys? It's a final render here. You may remember a few weeks back I decided to tackle the Prydwen and give it some of the special building with mods treatment, where we went ahead and used the settlement mode to construct our perfect living quarters inside the Prydwen, and I think we did a pretty good job. We made this very small little area into a really nice livable apartment. However, the Prydwen is a pretty darn big place, and there is still a lot to tackle if we want to completely give this place the building with mods formula. So how about we go ahead and tackle the rest of the Prydwen in what is the second of what will probably be 3 parts. Let's go. So welcome back to the Prydwen, people. The Prydwen is the perfect operating base for the Brotherhood of Steel. It is made purely out of steel itself and is powered by nuclear powered engines, but it's not anywhere near practical to be considered a serious fighting force in the Commonwealth. So we are going to expand on all of the elements of the Prydwen so it actually makes more sense and has a lot more scale and a lot more production involved on the ship. So let's go. We're going to start off with a little sick bay, and we are going to enhance this place to have a lot more medical facilities, and not only that, we're also going to try to make it look a bit nicer. If you're ill, you want to be in a nice kind of looking environment, at least try to, in a kind of steel ship anyway. And the idea of this entire build is not to actually change things too much, but just kind of enhance them, so that we kind of keep the same themes of every single individual room, but we just enhance them so it actually makes a bit more sense and works with a bigger scale, because there's so many people who are members of the Brotherhood of Steel, but this Prydwen ship, it's far too small, or at least appears to be far too small, to carry all these troops effectively. For the clinic, we are going to have a lot more medical resources in here so that if anyone gets ill, we are able to treat them in here. These huge shelves are going to have pretty much every kind of chem and medical equipment you could possibly need. And the idea is not to so much make a hospital, but kind of make a doctor's office. So if you've had too much radiation or you're addicted to chems, you can come here and get treated. We will actually be tackling a hospital in the third part of the video. But right now we're just kind of making the place look a little bit nicer and kind of give it its own little character in a way. And the results really do speak for themselves. This place is much nicer, and there is a lot more space in here as well to walk around, as well as get all the necessary resources you need in order to effectively treat people. Because you can't treat people effectively in a dark, confined space. You need a lot of room and you need a lot of resources to get people well. And I think I've done a pretty good job with this clinic while still maintaining the Brotherhood of Steel Prydwen feel. So here it is, all fully done. As I said, a lot more space, and we've also got all the necessary facilities to make it a bit more effective, while still remaining true to what the original clinic looked like. There was a little bit more colour, there are a little more decorations in there, but to tell you the truth, it just feels much more appropriate to what a clinic's office should be. It's got the x-rays, it's got all the ingredients you need to make the chems, it's got all the appropriate equipment to make new items that you can use, and also the equipment to actually examine the people so it all works well. And now we are going to tackle the records room. I didn't really know what to do with the records room too much until I found this map. This map was a lot smaller originally, but I've scaled it up so it actually fits on one of these walls. And the idea is, the Brotherhood of Steel is probably a worldwide organization. It might not operate in other countries, but if the Brotherhood of Steel exists, it makes sense that there are other organizations similar to it from other countries. So it would make sense that the Brotherhood of Steel would want to kind of keep an eye on any of these organizations in case they ever make their way to the United States. And we're going to have a lot more shelves, a lot more books, and we're also going to have a pretty nice projector display right here, which I've tried to make it look a little run down by having the projector kind of stacked on books rather than having it sitting on a nice secure table. It just kind of has that rough and ready feel of a warship that is constantly on the mend and constantly on the move. Not only that, but we've also expanded the office a little bit so that there are some more computers and records in there so that you could almost have a staff almost. Oh, and of course we need a little area for the cat to sleep. And I don't really know why the cat doesn't have its little sleeping area already. Would have been a nice little touch, but there is one now in my hands, Prydwen. Final thing is to put the door on again so it gives the place a bit more scale, and then we are done. So here we are inside the finished record room. This is a dark, dusty little place that only 2 or 3 people would probably ever really go to, because really, it's not what you sign up for the Brotherhood of Steel to do. But someone has to do it. Someone has to maintain all these records and keep the place working, not only from a financial standpoint, but also from an organizational standpoint. So it makes sense to have a pretty fully fledged record room, but I don't really want to make it huge. I don't want to have it so it's like 20 members of staff all doing finances. Whilst that would make sense in a kind of a practical sense, it doesn't really make sense for the size of the Prydwen, or really what the Brotherhood of Steel does. I feel as if the Brotherhood of Steel often acts on their gut, so there it is done. And now we're going to tackle the dining area. The dining area, for some reason, only has like 2 tables in it and 4 chairs. That makes no sense. The Brotherhood of Steel is a huge organisation, and pretty much every member of the Brotherhood of Steel would have been on this ship at one point. What, do they eat in shifts 4 at a time? That doesn't make sense. So we are going to expand the kitchen, expand the dining area, so that we can feed a lot more mouths at once. And whilst I said it's a bit silly that they do it in shifts, you would still have to do it in shifts with a ship this size, but that being said, you can feed a lot more people at once now. We're going to fill these huge dining counters with all the kinds of food you would need, with some meat, some fruit and veg, and also some pudding, just because these are good soldiers and they deserve some pink sludge every now and then, don't they? And now, for the actual dining tables, we've got some of the vault tables, and thankfully these things actually are a bit small, so we're actually able to add a lot of them in there. And we are going to have an awful lot of the cluttery and crockery that you need inside this place to make it look kind of like an active canteen, rather than just like a little snack bar where you can sit down and have a little moo fruit every now and then. It actually feels like a proper canteen now. And again, we are going to put some effort into the decoration of this place to make it look a bit nicer, because it can't be all steel, all serious all the time. You need a place to relax and chill, especially when you're eating your food, because that is some of your only time off, and it would make sense to have it be a nice place. We are going to put up a little entrance sign in here just to kind of give it a little more flavour to the Prydwen and make it seem like a bit of a nicer place, and it really works well when you actually kind of segregate all the rooms, as well as some posters right on the end just to give it a bit more fun. And here is the dining area fully done. As you can see, we have got a lot more table space so people can sit and eat their food. We have got all the kitchen and cooking accessories we need, and all the food already on display, ready for you to feast your eyes on. And not only that, but since we've got more space, it makes much more sense in terms of the actual Prydwen, because since there was just so much empty space in this dining room, it didn't really make much sense. It's like, you really need to maximize the amount of space if you've got a ship this size. You need to be able to make everything fully effective, which it wasn't. But now, it is. So let's carry on. Moving on to the huge workshop area. This one was a lot of fun to do. As I said, the main thing with the Prydwen is that it has all the key ingredients, but just not enough of them. So this workshop has been fully expanded. We have added a lot more sets of power armor, a lot more tools, and a lot more just kind of space to walk around in while still having the huge amount of production you need. I added like these kind of cool tarpaulins right at the top, and I think that works quite well, because since there are catwalks at the top, you don't want people accidentally dropping screws and stuff on the people who are working below. So you have that there just to kind of protect the people working below. And luckily we have got a huge amount of clutter in the Prydwen already, so I could just move things around. And we have got a robot workbench. Before you say that's unlaw friendly, there is already a Mr. Gutsy on board, so it makes sense that they would want to make some of their own automatrons as well as their power armor. And here is the place done. Seeing as we were able to clear out a lot of the shelves which were just kind of filled with screws and stuff, we have got a lot more suits of power armor. It wouldn't surprise me if every member of the Brotherhood of Steel has to at least train inside the power armor suits, so it makes sense that you have lots. And obviously they are always fighting, so they're pretty much always going to be damaged in some way. You need to have as many suits as possible. That's what made the Brotherhood of Steel win all these wars, so they're going to keep at it, as well as the new automatron facilities so that they can make their own fighting robots. And now we're going to tackle the little weapon shop, the weapon shop which charges you, seeing as you need to actually keep the Brotherhood of Steel going. And this was pretty obvious what I had to do. I just had to have loads of weapons on display and have all the necessary clutter to actually repair and feed these guns ammunition. So I really enjoyed making this place because it was a bit simpler, and also it actually had a lot of the clutter in there already. I just kind of had to move things about. And we've got a huge amount of static weapons on display here, which you can purchase if you actually have the caps for it. And I did have to do a lot of work with the nav mesh in this place because it was much smaller, but now it is all fully working and ready to go. And here is the weapon shop already done. This is probably one of the quickest parts of the Prydwen for me to build, and to tell you the truth, it's probably my favourite. The amount of military hardware on display would make Michael Bay ecstatic. And we've got all the necessary ingredients to actually put all the mods onto the weapons, all the ammo to feed, at least feed everyone on the Prydwen. Because whilst it is true that there are a lot of soldiers here, you probably wouldn't be able to get all the ammunition to fully arm everyone. Just enough to actually protect the Prydwen when you're on board, when you're on the ground, kind of have started off with a small amount of ammunition and then scavenge the rest, which I think makes sense. But that being said, there is still an awful lot here, and it actually looks really nice. It's still got a really nice aesthetic and does actually resemble a shop as well, which the old proctor there was a little bit nervous about mentioning. So now, this is actually the section which took the longest on this build. If you notice with the Prydwen, there's like nowhere to sleep. There's like 8 beds on the top, and that's it. There's more people on the Prydwen than there are beds. Makes no sense. And we have got this huge bottom area with nothing in it. There is nothing on this bottom section of the ship, across the entire ship. So I decided to fill this place with accommodation. We've got little rooms in here which can house bunk beds, and it works really well to actually maximize this space, because again, there is no reason for all this empty space to be here. Yes, I know it's the Prydwen, it's an airship. They might have to keep it in mind that weight is an issue, but it's like, come on, Brotherhood of Steel, if you can't give people a place to sleep, why bother with a ship this size? You know what I'm saying? Just make a truck or something if that's really an issue. And this place took a really long time because it took a lot of effort to actually make these rooms fit in the environment. I think I ended up with 4, maybe 5 rooms, all full of bunk beds in the end, and it just makes so much more sense to have all this space. That being said though, each room is very small. It is very closely confined in this place, but hey, that's soldiery for you. You need to be able to sleep together, well, not sleep together, you need to be able to rest together, and you need to be able to shower together in small, confined spaces, because that is how you maximize the amount of your vehicles. So here we are adding some lights to the Prydwen. Down into this bottom section of the ship, there is no natural light of any kind, so we need to add an awful lot of light bulbs just to actually make this place visible to the eye. And it makes sense to actually have a lot of lights down here, but at the same time, I really like just having a few, because it kind of meant you got these really nice looking pools of light. It was almost as if they were saving the electricity powered by the nuclear generator for the actual flying of the ship, and just kind of put the bare amount of effort into the electrics in the bottom section. And here it is, all done. As I said, whilst this looks very small, and it is, this was the hardest section to build in order to get all of these rooms to fit inside the area we had, because I didn't actually scale the ship at all, I just enhanced the rooms. So that was very tough, but I'm glad I did it. And now, we are going to make a little gym area. Again, this is on the very bottom floor where there is literally nothing down here. And I decided to make a gym because if you're on this place, on this ship, for months at a time, or maybe just weeks at a time, you need to keep your fitness up. These are soldiers, and you can't have unfit soldiers, so it would make sense to have a little active gym down here so that you can do some training while flying across the huge oceans where you can't go walk around. Otherwise, you're just going to sit there and get fat on the puddings I put into Medina, aren't you? So here we go, we actually do have a lot of exercise equipment, as well as some little nav markers so that people can do push-ups on these mats whenever they want to. And it looks really nice when you add this kind of vault flooring in there to kind of give it the rubber flooring so that you can drop your dumbbells after you've done a sick rep. And here we go with the place all done. There is still a nice amount of space in here, but we've got quite a lot of equipment for people to use. And whilst people do have an awful lot to do, it makes sense that you have a place to keep your fitness up. And not only that, but you could kind of call this a recreation area because people enjoy going to the gym, so that when they're not on active duty or resting, they can come here and kind of show off how strong they are. And now this is just a little afterthought really. Someone mentioned in the comments section of the very first part of the Prydwen build is that there is not a single toilet on the Prydwen. Not one. That would be horrible. So I am going to make a very small toilet and shower area here, although I have decided that I will add another one in part 3, seeing as this area is very small and only has 2 toilets in it, and there's not even any stools, you know, so much for privacy. But hey, here we go with a very small toilet area and shower area, just so it makes sense until we do part 3 of the build. And as I said, it's very closely confined, but it would make sense to try to maximize the amount of space on the ship by having a small shower area pretty much wherever you could fit one, so that people can stay safe and hygiened and ready for combat at any time, because people are dirty, they're not going to actually be very healthy, and they're not going to be very effective soldiers. So there it is for part 2. We have done an awful lot, but there is still much more to do. There is an entire 3rd floor which needs an expanded science bay, we need a huge rec room, more toilets, we need to expand on the personal living quarters of some of the soldiers, the command deck, the main quarters. Oh, we also need an actual decent hospital rather than just a clinic, so part 3 is going to be very busy. So guys, if you enjoyed this video, please remember to give me a like and subscribe. This has been the final render, doing the Prydwen part 2 build. This build is going to be downloadable for PC on the Nexus and Bethesda.net, as well as PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. It's about time the PlayStation 4 guys finally got their mods. I haven't uploaded any yet until now. So guys, thanks very much for watching the video. This has been a really long one, I'm not gonna lie. However, part 3 is probably going to be a bit shorter because there are less rooms to do. But that being said, it's still gonna take a lot of effort to do it right. So thanks very much for watching guys. This has been the final render and you have been the audience. Until next time, farewell.